Hi, my name is Tabatha, and I don't remember a specific moment of conversion when I actually started following Christ because I was raised in a Christian family. I remember at the age of 5 actually making a public declaration of my faith, and I told my parents I knew what I was doing. My mom had actually become a Christian a few months after I was born, and so she was very hungry and committed to learning the scriptures and spending time in prayer. And so that really impacted me on a day-to-day basis. I remember one time I actually couldn't find her around the house. They'd been playing in my room or something when I was little. And I started searching for her. And finally I found her, and she was in her room and she was on her knees praying. And I remember pondering that and just taking it in and wondering why she was doing that and what that was about. And now as a mother of 2 strong-willed, active toddlers, I know why she was praying. But in all seriousness, it really impacted me. And whether it was her constantly being in the scriptures and reading the scriptures and talking about the scriptures to us, or really teaching us the value of prayer and for believing God and believing Him for the impossible, it really shaped who I was. But then growing up, I feel like my faith was more of a private matter. And so other than a few close girlfriends, most people would probably have known me for more of my moral decisions, so to speak. And I think that was a driving force where I didn't share about my faith openly. I remember in first grade, I made this little craft. It was probably the last time I've been crafty, but I made this took construction paper and put together this little thing for a girl in my class and said, "Jesus loves you." And I slipped it into her desk, the little black opening. It's like a black hole, and you don't even want to reach your hand in it today, but I went ahead and I left it for her, and then it was snack time, and she pulled it out and she started reading it, and I just remember being like, "Oh, please don't know it was me that did that." And I think that that really categorized it. I wanted people to know Christ, but I didn't necessarily want to be the person that told them about Him. And so it was a very private matter to me. And I mainly lived by a moral code. And so I looked at the people around me, my peers, and I thought, okay, well, as long as I don't do everything they do, then I should be fine. And so that allowed for a lot of compromise to come in and for me to actually view my relationship with Christ in the matter of what I did or did not do. And it really wasn't until I went away to college, ironically, that I learned my need for Christ and what walking with Christ and accepting Christ and accepting His grace meant for me. My first weekend at Virginia Tech, so some girls in my dorm who actually were on my hall asked me to go with them to a campus church service. And I thought, okay, sure, we'll go check it out. And I remember walking in and just being blown away. There were hundreds of college students just so excited about worshiping God. And I couldn't believe it because, like I said, my faith had been so private to me, and I hadn't really been surrounded in high school or middle school with, other friends who were in love with Christ. And so that really pulled me in, and I again remember thinking about it and going, what is different here? Why are they, I don't sense that it's fake. Why are they so excited about knowing Christ? And so I became very involved in the church, and it was during my college career that the Lord really showed me my need for Him, how great my sin was, and how much I needed His grace. And I made that decision again, recommitted myself to Him and decided, this is what I want to live my life for. I want to know Him. I want to know the scriptures. I want to live my life for Him and live the life He's called me to live. And from that point on, it was actually my senior year, I moved back on campus because I wanted to be closer to the students I was ministering to. And I felt a really strong call to go into ministry, in specific women's ministry. And so after I graduated, I went back to Richmond and I raised support for 9 months. And once I had the financial support I needed, I went back to Tech and actually ministered to women through outreach and discipleship and teaching, and it was great. And a few years later, though, I moved back to Richmond and went off staff, and that's really when a spiritual drought started in my life. And during that time, I started, pursuing a variety of different careers, trying to figure out what the next thing would be for me. And I landed up in a field in government, and it eventually took us to DC, got married within that time, and we moved to DC. And, looking back, it's crazy because my focus completely shifted and it turned to work and not my relationship with Christ. I felt like, I still had the faith, I still believed in him, but it wasn't an active part of my life anymore. In fact, I think it was several years before we even started going to a church, that we had been living up there for at least 2 years and had tried churches here and there, but really didn't go to church. And so it was crazy, leaving, being in full-time ministry and then going to a place where I didn't even go to church, much less serve in a church. And so from that point, we eventually found a church and started going to it, again, sporadically. And we joined a small group with several other families, and that really felt great again to be involved with other believers. And still something was missing. And when I was actually in school and pregnant with our first child, Harper, we decided to move back to Richmond so that we would be near family and so that I could finish up school. And once we moved back to Richmond, again, didn't really get involved anywhere, and we were living life in our own strength and on our own. And, after you have a newborn, life just completely flips on its head. And so I'd say it was 6 months, when Harper was 6 months old, that we, came to Spring Run, and we heard the gospel right away, and we're reminded of the gospel. And I think it was from that point on, just being part of this Christian community, of constantly hearing the gospel, that the Lord taught me that, okay, this isn't a one-time decision deal. Like, you need me, you need the gospel in your life every single day. And I'm still learning that. I'm still, in so many days I try to do it in my own strength and I fall short. And I realize I really need Christ, and it's been amazing because the more that I feel like I'm growing in him, and the more I realize how much more I need his grace. And so it helps if I'm wallowing in my own sin, then I'm not looking at him, and I can't love him the way that I want to and that I'm supposed to. And so it's that reminder of the gospel really puts our eyes on Christ and what he's done for us, not what we do. Not what we do on a daily basis, not what we do with our lives. It's about him and his sacrifice and his dying for us so that we can have life, so we can have eternal life. And that's really made a huge difference in my walk and in feeling hope again, and feeling like I can focus on him, and I don't have to be perfect, because I never will be. And that's hard for a perfectionist to accept and to live with, but just to find comfort in that thankfully he's perfect, and that's all that matters. And so it's been a journey, and when I look back on my faith journey, it's amazing, because I feel like there's been valleys and there's been mountaintops, but all along he's been there wooing me and pulling me back time and time and time again. And so, yeah, it's been amazing.